Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Well. It's Laura, your host, and today I have the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Andrea Isabelle Lucas. She is the founder and CEO of Barre Soul. You may have heard of her there. You may have seen her speak. She's been on many a stage chatting about her book, Own It All. You may have just been following her wild and fun Instagram account. But Andrea has been one of my inspirations in this business. And today we're going to be chatting about the systems, the operations, the people that have allowed her to have the freedom to live across the country from her studios and live the life of her dreams. Andrea is going to be talking to us about some of the pivots she's had to make in the business, the people that have helped along the way, and ultimately the soul that has carried this studio brand through the years. Enjoy. Hello, Andrea. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, it's so good to be here. I'm so excited to catch up with you.
I know, me too. And we're both on the West Coast now, so just living the California life.
Yes, living the dream.
It really is. I should have told you this beforehand. My daughter was in LA for a volleyball tournament or a volleyball camp, and I had a little bit of time in between, and I went and was walking the boardwalk in Venice, and I was like, oh God, I wonder if Andrea is here. I need to find her. But it was too short of notice. So next time I will be there a lot. I will come find you.
Yes, please.
Oh, well, I am so excited for everyone listening to get to hear a little bit more about your story, how you've landed where you are, how Barre Soul has grown to be what it is. And I guess let's just kick off with a little bit of your the recap story of Andrea, and would certainly love to hear how you landed into this wild world of boutique fitness.
Yeah. I love sharing my origin story because I think it's so important for people to hear themselves in other people's stories, just to know what's possible and just what lies behind the success story that is now. There's plenty that came before that. And I think it's always so good to just revisit that and talk about that. So I always like to start out by sharing that I was a teen mom. I was also a domestic violence survivor. I was someone who was single with 2 young kids, going through a really rough time, literally on food stamps, just trying to figure out how I was going to get by. And I stumbled into teaching fitness as a part-time job, not career, I would say job, while I figured out what my career was going to be and what my path was going to be as a single mom and how I was going to make it all work. And I was finishing up my college degree because I had, been a mom since I was 19. So it took quite some time to do that. Got into women's studies, got really passionate about feminism and just women's empowerment. And this side job that I had as a fitness instructor, I started to see how actually that could be a platform for women's empowerment. And it could really be a place where I could have a lot of impact, because it's kind of like going to church, going to a fitness studio. You go every week and you go forever. You're never finished. It's never done. So it's really this opportunity. If you create the right culture, it's an opportunity to create a beautiful message that really lives in someone's life week after week after week and in community with others. So I began to see it as a really powerful platform that could, actually become a career for me. And so I did not have the money to start my own studio at first. I took a management position that I'm so grateful that I did, which really helped me learn the ropes and get confident and get practice at my leadership abilities while being guaranteed a paycheck, which was really important at first. And then it really wasn't until Barre started to go mainstream around 2013 that I realized, I'm highly trained in this and I might not feel ready to start my own business, but if I don't make a move now, lots of other people will. And I'm going to pick myself and be so mad. So that prompted me to start before I was ready. I started Barre Soul as a program that would be affiliated with other people's yoga studios so that I didn't have to deal with the overhead of my own space. I thought that I would do these partnerships with other studios. And then by the time I approached the second partner, she happened to be selling her studio. She was willing to finance it to me. and it, had the financials to show that it was a viable business. And so it was risky, but I was able to take that first risk. And within the first 3 years, I actually had 6 locations.
Wow, gosh. I get to speak to so many people who have taken the risk, right? Like there always is a risk at some point.
Yeah.
And one of the common threads that I love is that when you say yes, the next stone appears. Like it is
Mhm.
just one of those magic, I don't know, energetic, everything moving in the right direction moments. And hearing that, I mean, I hope for those of you listening who are just considering whether it's opening a business or some sort of a risk, know that there's a stone it doesn't always look like the stone you're anticipating, but something appears for you to land on. And
Mhm.
God, 6 locations that quickly is pretty incredible. Um, and you wrote a book about this, yeah?
Yes, I did. My book is called Own It All, and it is really about this rock bottom moment that I experienced when I was fleeing from domestic violence and called home to tell my parents about what was happening. And unfortunately, like in my dad's limited like scope of experience of what was
Mm,
possible in his limited worldview, his response to me was, "What are you going to do? You can't leave." And
oof,
that I was, young, and I might not have known much at the time, but I knew that wasn't right. I
yeah.
knew I was going to be leaving. And what I learned in that moment was that the adults weren't coming to save me. No one was coming to fix the mess that I was in or to get me out of it. And if I was going to wait for permission to choose myself and do what I knew was right and what I needed, I could be waiting forever to get that permission. So I really
Mm,
learned in that moment that we get to choose ourselves and we get to be our own permission slip for whatever it is that we know is right for us. And it's a life lesson. And they always say that you teach what you need to learn. So I keep learning this lesson over and over again. And I'll catch myself doing it. I'm like, oh, look at that. I was waiting for permission again. So it's definitely a process, a humbling process of continuing to choose myself and do what I know is resonant and right for me, and not
mhm.
wait for outside approval or for opportunities to land in my lap, but to create them myself.
Incredible. Well, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I read your book in the first year of starting Walla, and so
Wow.
there was a lot of inspiration there, so thank you.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, I had actually seen you speak ages ago at a Mind Body conference, but I didn't buy the book or read it then, but then in the early days of Walla, I was on a streak of I wanted to find women who had done big things in our industry, and it's so incredible how many women there are who are running these powerful, life changing businesses. And still, so many of the stories are about the men who shaped the fitness industry. And there really just was not a lot out there. Meanwhile, we didn't even have sports bras until like I don't know, like late 70s. And there are these incredible change makers. So I had this moment where I was like, I'm going to find a lot of the stories of the women. Um, Lottie Burke, actually, who I know
Oh.
you probably took a lot of inspiration from, was one of them.
Mhm.
So on that note, actually, I'd love, why Bar and Soul, the name, the product, kind of the evolution of the business. Tell me about what struck you with bar and yoga together, right? It was the two at
Mhm.
first.
Yeah. When I was doing that full-time management job that I did before I started my own business, I taught a lot of classes. And while bar was the thing that had helped me heal and transform and really get my power back when I was going through the hardest time of my life, I didn't have the experience when I taught bar that I got when I taught yoga. I
Mm,
felt like in yoga, I got to get on my soapbox and really make it about more than just exercise. And I
yeah.
really got to make it about what was happening inside of us. And bar was my preferred method of movement. So I wanted to create that experience of being able to have something deeper in the movement experience. I wanted to do it in bar. I didn't want to only just be able to do that in yoga. So I created my own bar method that included more of the um, messaging and like
Yeah.
the opportunity for reflection that you would get in a yoga class. And I had been trained in, the best of the best uh, of bar. My
Yeah.
mentors were Elizabeth Halfpap and Fred DeVito from Exhale and formerly the Lottie Burke method. So
Yeah.
I was trained to such a beautiful high standard. And when bar exploded, I saw not the same standard everywhere. And I was so passionate about maintaining that standard. And I even got so passionate that I went to England and studied with Lottie Burke's daughter, Esther Fairfax,
Oh, wow.
until she passed away when she was 89 a couple of years ago. And she was such an incredible mentor to me. That was such a humbling experience. And because it really, everything I thought I knew, I didn't know as much as I thought when I got there and found out, the way that it had originally been done. And it was humbling. And I think I'm still really passionate about a really well taught uh, class and really studying your craft and learning the rules before you break them or knowing why you're breaking them, and I think I used to have a little more bar police in me. And I think that kind of fell away after I worked with Esther because I just realized like things do change and evolve for, different reasons. And as long as there's a good reason, then it does make sense to change and evolve the way you're teaching. And, we've brought in a lot of Pilates now and we have reformer in most of the studios now. So I think I've gotten a lot more open-minded
Yeah.
and curious about different ways that we can stay versatile and kind of keep evolving.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was very curious about because you've maintained a very strong business through all of these different kind of fads and
Mhm.
industry shifts, and you have pivoted in some ways, but in others you've stayed very true to what you're doing. So, do you work with your team on that? Is that very much a you visionary decision, or how do you make those decisions?
I do really well with a sounding board always.
Mm,
Like I'm one of those people I like to think and process out loud. I do not get much work done on my own. I really process better when I'm working with somebody, even, when I'm working with my operations manager, Taylor. And literally, I joke that she chaperones me while I do my emails because it's just so not fun for me to work by myself that I will not go in my inbox until I have someone to like hang out with me and talk to me while I do it. And then I get to like process and think about what I want to say before I respond. Or sometimes I would just forward it to her because she's going to handle it or whatever. So I never make decisions in a vacuum. And I try to obviously make sure and check in with myself that I'm
yeah,
choosing what is most true for me and not just being influenced. But I think that it was very collaborative with my team when we started to make the decisions to add in more Pilates and to bring in the reformers. I mean, it took a huge lift from my team, especially because I'm not even in
yeah,
New England anymore, where all my studios are. I'm on the West Coast now. So I had to have their buy in and their excitement for that project because they owned it and they were the ones that actually made it happen and saw it through. So, yeah, if I would have just been, commanding from the mountaintop that we're going to bring in
hmm,
reformers and Pilates, like that would not have worked. So it was very much
right.
something that we all had to be enrolled in.
Ugh. Well, I know I didn't kind of put this in the prep for our conversation, but I very much am curious about your perspective now that you're on the West Coast versus East Coast, like the boutique fitness landscape, the studio landscape, the classes. What are the big differences that you see?
It's really interesting. I mean, I don't see huge differences in the way boutique fitness is approached here versus back home. What's different for me is what my experience is like. First of all, I just get to be a consumer and a tourist
Yeah.
of
Oh my
fitness
gosh.
out here.
So fun.
And that's kind of really fun. And I'm just noticing more what my experience is like as a business owner, being close to my studios versus being far away from them. And lots of people have asked me if I'm going to open studios here. And so far, that's been a no,
Yeah.
because I am finally operating the way I've always wanted to as the owner of the company. And it seems like moving farther from the business kind of forced me into the role I always said I wanted. And
Yeah.
so I've never liked my job more or been more proud of my team or been more successful or made more money. So I feel like something's going very right with the way we're doing things. And I really want to embrace that.
Oh gosh. Well, that is definitely where I want this conversation to go. So I love the idea that when you finally start to let go and like especially if there are things where you've kind of held on tight to control or you felt
Yes.
like I should be there physically or I should be teaching certain number of times a week. What kind of either key decisions or big mistakes helped you get to this point where you feel this freedom and the financial the profits, the financial wins that you're seeing at this point.
Yeah. So I think that there is a season for everything. When
Mhm.
I first bought that studio, that kind of fell into my lap and I was expanding and opening new locations. I knew I wanted to be multi-location, so I knew it was very important that I focus on working on the business, not in the business.
Yeah.
And I've always operated that way since I started. And so I always focused on how do I make this work without it having to go through me. And so even though I always had that mindset, I think there was a feeling of always wanting to take one for the team to show that I was a team player and to show that I care. And there was kind of I don't know if guilt is the right word, or like I always just felt a little sense of obligation to be more involved in the
Mhm.
day to day because I wanted the team to know that I cared and that, I was showing up for them as a leader. And simultaneously, I think I kept myself in the weeds in things I didn't want to be and that
Mm.
frankly they were perfectly capable of handling. So, I think that there was a time when I really needed to be doing all the things and sweeping the floor and fixing the website myself. And that's what it
Right.
took to get started. And I think that if you stay in that for too long, it leads to burnout. And
Yeah.
at this point, I've grown past that point in my career and I want to be making sure that I'm growing as a person and that I'm expressing myself and exploring different things, not just doing the same thing that I've always done. So now it's like exciting for me to train my team as my replacement and like let them have the opportunity to grow into the role that I've already, you know,
Yeah.
experienced and feel complete with. So I think a few things worked in my favor. One is that the time difference forced
Mhm.
my work days to get shorter. So now I get the same amount done in less time because by the time I get on, it's like already noon for my team. And I'm on West Coast time, they're on East Coast time. There's a lot they've already handled and figured out, and they didn't end up needing to pull me
Yeah.
into, you
That's
know. And then by a certain time, like 1 o'clock here, it feels like nobody over there really wants to talk to me anymore because they're like wanting to wrap up their
yeah,
day.
they're
So
done.
it's perfect. So we still get just as much done, but we get it done in a lot less time. And I think I'm not overstepping into other people's jobs and I'm
Yeah.
trusting them to do their job and to make good, executive decisions without me holding them up. So I also think because I'm not as involved in the day to day. Like I'm not burning myself out. I'm not, you know, I don't know, my attitude is better.
Yeah.
And I don't know about so many of the details. So I don't worry about so many of the small ripples. You know what
Right.
I mean? It's like they don't seem like big waves. I'm able to really just keep an eye on the P&L. And I have an amazing accounting company that I work with that really helps me have such a good handle
Oh,
on
that's great.
the revenue, the expenses, the profit margins, and
Mhm.
understanding what's working. I meet with them every other week. We're really looking at why are things going as well as they are? What are we doing that's working well? I also share that with all of the managers so they understand what's working well. And they understand not just like, I need to make X number of membership sales this month because my boss said so. But it's like,
Right.
oh, I understand where the top line is. I understand how much we spent. There were 3 pay periods this month. Our profit is not as much,
Yep.
for whatever. We invested in new equipment. So that means our profit margin is smaller. So I think that having really amazing reporting and bringing the team into that and helping them understand and be more entrepreneurial with the big picture has been really, really powerful.
Yeah. I really, really love and embrace the idea of involving your team in the
Mhm.
finances of the business. And I know there are quite a few studio owners out there that have a lot of resistance to that. It feels very secretive or like I shouldn't share that, or it's just exposing or very vulnerable more than anything. And that's where the power is, because when they have an understanding, there's so much more buy-in. And you're right, it feeds that entrepreneurial spirit and makes you feel like we're all in this together and I'm not
Mhm.
just giving you tasks to do to check a box.
Yeah.
Um, how did you find your team members? Did they come from the community? Who are the people making the ship sail right now?
Mhm. Yeah, they mostly did come from the community. Our One of our studio managers, I'll just kind of focus on the management team because
Yeah, yeah,
there's,
yeah.
so many players, but
Right.
one of our studio managers, Jenna, came to us from DC, with amazing experience and background right at the beginning of the pandemic when we were the most shorthanded and really in the need of
Mm.
the most help, and has just been really owning and taking care of our Portsmouth location as well as being our movement lead. So really helping to create all of the
Oh,
content for the
perfect.
Pilates rollouts, is super passionate about, she's an amazing yoga teacher trainer as well as bar, as well as, getting to deep dive into the world of Pilates and make sure that our reformer rollouts have been amazing. Um, we have Taylor, who's the operations manager. She came to us from being a member in the community, up to, I want to say, front desk and
Yeah.
covering for one of the studio managers' maternity leave. We just learned that she was such a good detail oriented person who loves doing the nitty gritty tasks that a lot of us don't love
Yes.
to do. And so she's the one I jokingly say is my chaperone because she
Yeah.
really makes sure that I'm accomplishing everything that I need to do and that the back end of the business is working well and everything's in compliance and getting documented and
Yeah.
getting done on time. And then Paige started as a teacher in our Providence studio and has worked her way up to studio manager and now regional manager. And even is covering Massachusetts right now. We have 2 locations there that Paige has been kind of remotely managing with a studio lead as like boots on the ground, but we're in the
Yep.
process of hiring another Massachusetts studio manager now. But
Awesome.
that's just been, so amazing. And again, she came up through from being a teacher responding to a Facebook ad 10 years ago,
Oh
which we
my
get to
gosh.
celebrate her 10-year anniversary this year. And, just stepped into being an interim studio manager covering for maternity leave like the day we had to close our doors for the pandemic. So she's
Wow.
just been like such a ride or die and really committed to the growth that it has taken to go from being able to do everything and doing everything and having this hustle work ethic to realizing like, oh, okay, this
Yeah.
is how much I'm going to need to delegate for this to actually be sustainable, and just being super flexible to move in and out of different roles, whether that's leaning more into teacher training, leaning more into marketing, project managing a build out and construction and
Gosh.
interior design or retail. Like it's been really powerful. And now Allie, who was the Providence manager that Paige was covering for at the time, is now our sales manager. So she's taken on being the lead point person for all of the outreach for the many different locations and really owning that follow up experience and nurturing new people into the studio and into auto pay memberships.
Yes.
And so, yeah,
Yeah.
mostly people that, and also Allie was someone that responded to a Facebook ad 10 years ago. So,
Wow.
yeah, I would
Awesome.
say, mostly people from within the community that love Bar and Soul and like are really um, invested in the brand are the ones that,
Hmm.
are having the most ownership, and also we've had amazing hires off of Indeed. So,
Yeah.
you never know, but and I do want to shout out Matt at Worth. Um he's our bookkeeper, but it's like sounds silly to say that because his role is so much bigger than that. And like
Hmm.
when we meet every 2 weeks, we sit down by talking about like what's important to me, what's really alive for me right now, and what am I experiencing? What are my goals? What's my vision for the business before we go into the numbers? And also Jeremy at Signal House for everything that he's doing because again, I'm not in the nitty gritty and I do feel like I can finally take that
Hmm.
30,000-foot view. So I'm finally able to look at our SEO, our website, our brand, our first impressions, running Google ads, checking to make sure our pricing is really where it should be.
Yeah.
Are we tracking all the right KPIs that we should be? Are we taking advantage of all of the marketing uh, automations that are
Yeah.
available to us.
Right.
So
Right.
he's our fractional CMO and he's really focused on the digital side and making sure that we're implementing everything we can from a tech perspective and from a digital marketing perspective, that has just been hugely strategic. That's something that I've been I don't know, I've been getting away with not focusing on,
For so
in
long.
years
Yeah.
prior. Yeah, but it's
Oh
like,
my
oh,
gosh.
look how much better we can do when we do actually
Yeah.
focus on this. Look how much more revenue we're bringing in, and look how much healthier our profit margins are.
What a good point. Well, first of all, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody talk about their accountant the way you just talked about yours. So, like, apparently we all need to meet him.
So special.
That is so awesome. But also, yeah, I mean, the number of businesses we hear say, like, oh, all of our clients are from word of mouth, and that's amazing. That's awesome.
Mhm.
But what if you were investing
Exactly.
in these other channels? Like, can you imagine the potential? And I think
Exactly.
there's a lot of fear around just not knowing the landscape and
Mhm.
like what's snake oil out there in the marketing agency world and who do I trust? So it's incredible that you've been able to find that.
Seriously, and I completely have had the experience of hiring agencies that didn't really pan out, and it felt like a
Mhm.
big waste of money. And there's always this period at the beginning where they're like, you're not going to get results right away, it's going to take
Right.
a little while. And so then you're trying to figure out how long to stay in that waiting mode. And so the fact that Jeremy was someone that I knew and trusted, and I knew that he
Mhm.
would absolutely be so invested in making sure that I got the results, made me feel finally safe enough to take that risk and invest more in digital marketing in a way that I hadn't before. And it's been so nice to be
Oh,
able
that's
to
great.
do that.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I'm hearing is as you're talking about this, I mean, not every studio, even multi-location, can say they have this level of, whether it be management or support, a sales manager, a, manager at each location. I'm sure at some point it was kind of scary to invest in people at
Mhm.
that level to manage and to pay a salary and all of the things that come along with it. Um, has everything, it sounds like it's paid off. It's worth it.
Yes. And I think having really good numbers and having really good reporting and understanding the profit margins in every studio is so key. Right now I have 4 brick and mortar locations,
Hmm.
and one of them is kind of like, we've decided it's a little too small to have its own manager.
Mm,
And in the past, I did invest heavily in a full-time manager there, and as great as she was and as great as our sales were, the profit margins, just like the
right.
math wasn't mathing.
Yeah.
So at this point, we've combined 2 of the studios to have 1 manager so that it does make sense on the profit and loss statement. So
Yeah.
that's just something to really know and understand your numbers and what each business unit can actually afford.
Gosh, such a good point. I think, especially as somebody who's removed now, that's the story of you're seeing the story of your business through the numbers
Yeah.
first, and what a great lens to be able to do that with, especially with someone that you enjoy talking
Yeah.
to. Okay, so what does freedom look like for Andrea right now? Now that you're working not, however many hours a day, you've got short days, you've got a business that has some incredible people running the show.
Mhm. It's amazing. I have been a mom since I was 19. My kids are, off to college and off
Oh my
doing their thing
gosh.
at this point. And um, I always had to stay in one place because I was raising kids. I had a very different experience in my 20s and 30s than most people.
Yeah.
And so now I like to joke that I'm redoing my 20s in my 40s. But now I have like adult, you know, wisdom and money, which is
Yeah,
great.
way
So
better.
it's way
You're not
better.
sharing a
So
bed with someone in, like, a grimy apartment and yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So I never got to move and try different cities before because, my kids were in school and I was raising them. So I always loved LA. It was my favorite city. I love
Mm,
being here. I love the lifestyle here. It's so social. I have so much community here. I had so many friends in 3 months of living here, more than I had in years
wow.
of living in Boston. And it's nothing bad against Boston. It's just been like a very different
Yeah.
lifestyle here. And that's been really beautiful. I went to my first Burning Man last year.
Oh
I'll
my
never
gosh.
miss another Burning Man after
Okay, so
experiencing
it's
that.
you're gonna go back for sure.
Oh my God. I mean, you ride bikes with your friends all day. Like your inner child is just living the actual dream. Everybody wants to be your friend. There's surprises around every corner.
Oh,
There's art, there's, parties, there's dancing, there's nudity, there's just like friendly strangers everywhere you look. Like
I
it's a
love it.
beautiful thing. So, yeah, I'm really just building community, you know, being in love,
Mm,
being in a beautiful house by the beach in Venice, going out and riding my bike on the boardwalk and
so
just
cool.
appreciating my business, appreciating my freedom, appreciating my team, appreciating, yeah, all the time that I have to work out and,
Mhm.
create. I definitely have enjoyed hosting, like, because I have to say, like, it was a gap for me not having a studio when
Mm,
I came out here because I'm used to being the person who, like, has the gathering space and I'm sort
yeah.
of this holder of community. And I did feel a little anonymous when I moved out here. Like, what is my role here? I don't, um, so anyway, I didn't feel like I was being of service and that felt weird. So I got a house with a friend of mine and with the intention of hosting and having moon
Mm,
circles and, just creating community here. So that's been really fulfilling for me. And I'm also just really wanting to get back into public speaking more, getting on
yes.
podcasts, getting on stages, and just sharing more about my story and helping people choose themselves, give themselves permission and really live the life that they want and not have to wait for someday or have to wait for permission.
Oh, that's incredible. For so many of the people listening and the businesses we with at Walla, there is just this heaviness often of, the weight of the business, the weight of the decisions you're making every day, the weight of the environment you're running your business in. I mean, it's a tricky landscape in a lot of
Mhm.
different cities right now. But I will say, what a testament to I mean, we've seen bar, like, at the bottom of a lot of lists of, like, the fitness modalities, and somehow your studio named Bar and Soul is still thriving and better than ever. So it is such a testament to believing in something, the vision behind it, and the team to really execute on the excellence and the community that you wanted to bring forward.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. And I do think that being flexible and, open-minded and flowing with trends and things as they change in the
Mhm.
fitness industry is huge. If I had been so attached to just only focusing on bar, we probably wouldn't be doing as well as we
Yeah.
are. But it's like sometimes like I want to offer more yoga, but if our community's not coming to those yoga classes, I'm like, okay, fine. Like let's give the people what they want. They want more
Yeah.
sculpt classes. That might not be my favorite class, but like who cares? If everybody's loving it, and the numbers are great,
Yeah.
amazing. Everybody should totally come to sculpt. And so I did think about even changing the name of the business as we started to add more Pilates because we are so much more, we're bar and soul, but like we're offering so much more than bar
Yeah.
now. And it was so awesome having an SEO expert to work with and to be able to help me analyze how much traffic we were getting and how much brand equity we already
Oh,
had in that
interesting.
name. Because it
Yeah.
actually, no, like bar and soul's branding is too strong and people do understand that they can come to us for more than just bar. So we don't have to worry about you know, thinking about changing our name or giving people a different first impression about what we
Yeah.
offer, I was able to confirm that people already do understand who we are and what we offer, and
Right.
they're flowing right along with us.
Oh, that's so wow, what a cool thing to just
Yeah,
have data behind that and
yeah,
not feel like, "Oh god, am I making the right decision?"
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think there's a lot of, there are a lot of people who are fearful in the landscape we're in that there's, cycling's going out or bars going out or Pilates is taking over, Legree's taking over, whatever it is, everything is fluid and cyclical. And it really is important to hear what your clients have to say. And if you've got a rigid stance and this is all you want to do and all you ever want to do, that's fine. You just
Yep.
may have a very limited group of people that are going to stick with you forever.
Right.
Oh. Well, I'm curious about I know you said the West Coast is not necessarily calling you for opening studios. Is the goal to continue to grow Bar and Soul on the East Coast then? Do you like the virtual side of the business? What's next for Bar and Soul?
Right now, I'm having a lot of fun. Now that I do have so much data and I do have such a powerful team, I'm having a lot of fun increasing profitability without increasing headaches. So I'm like,
Ah, I love
how
it.
much better can we make our pricing? How much better can we make our conversions? How much longer can we retain our clients? Like, how can we increase monetization depth with our existing clients? How can we just shake this tree a little bit more and make it even more
Yes.
fruitful without necessarily adding another location, another team, another dozen
Yeah.
employees. Like, how much can we do with what we already have? I am open to expanding to more
Hmm.
locations. And like right now, I'm having a lot of fun just like deepening what we can do with what we already have. That's been so rewarding and honestly so fruitful.
Yeah. Gosh, what a perfect way to frame it. Like, what can you do more with what you have with fewer headaches without adding more headaches?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Um, well, how can our listeners find you, learn more about what you're doing? I am sure so many people out there would love to chat with you or just follow along or maybe even have you on their stage at some point.
Yeah.
We've got so many fun industry events and conferences these days.
Yes, absolutely. So the best way to connect with me is probably to follow me on Instagram, Andrea Isabelle Lucas. And I mean, we have lots of resources in terms of teacher trainings and
Hmm.
things like that available in terms of, and that's through Bar and Soul. And then in terms of working with me personally, I do facilitate vocal empowerment for groups. So I do group facilitation work. I do a keynote of my story, Own It All. I love being on panels. I love being on podcasts. I could be
Yes.
available to work with somebody one on one if they wanted
Yeah.
some help with whatever they're working through in their business. So best way to find me is on Instagram, Andrea Isabelle Lucas. Feel free to DM me about anything. I would love to hear from you and I would just love to stay connected.
Yeah, and if you do follow her, she has the best wardrobe, the best clothes you will ever see. I swear, I'm just like, I want to go play dress up with Andrea. That's really what I want
Anytime.
to do. Oh, well, thank you so much for joining us. And guys, we'll see you next time on Well, Well, Well.